They were told it was safe. They were even taught to shape the brush with their lips. A century later, in the dark, beneath the earth, their bones are still radioactive. Who were they, and who lied to them? Orange, New Jersey, the early 1920s. Inside the workshops of the United States Radium Corporation, hundreds of young women hand-paint the tiny numbers on watch dials. A paint that glows on its own, no lamp, no electricity. They call it Undark. Its magic is radium. It's one of the best-paid jobs a young woman could hope for, 3 times the wage of an ordinary factory. Their fingers glow. Their hair glows. In the evening, walking home, they leave a trail of light behind them. People call them the Ghost Girls. To paint a clean number, you need a perfect point on your brush. So they're taught emotion. Lips, dip, paint. You shape the bristles between your lips, you dip, you paint. Hundreds of times a day. And every single time, a trace of poison on the tongue. No one stops them. Quite the opposite. They're told radium gives you rosy cheeks. So they play with it. They paint their nails, their teeth, to smile in the dark. They wear their best dresses to the workshop, so the glowing dust settles into the cloth and makes them shimmer that night at the dance. No one tells them what it's doing on the inside. 1922, Mollie Maggia. Everyone calls her Molly. It begins with a simple toothache. The dentist pulls the tooth. The pain doesn't stop. He pulls the next one. Where the teeth were, ulcers that weep. And then the bone begins to give way. A tooth, then the jaw, then the bone itself, which the doctor lifts out in a single motion, almost without force. Molly dies on the 12th of September, 1922. On her death certificate, one word. Just one. Syphilis. The real poison isn't on it. No one, at the time, has yet identified it. Remember that word. It comes back later, because Molly isn't alone. In Orange, the girls fall one after another. The same impossible symptoms. The jaw that rots, doctors will come to call it radium jaw. The anemia that drains the blood. And worse, bones that break on their own. A leg that snaps while walking. A spine that collapses, that shrinks, inch by inch. Radium looks like calcium. The body mistakes it for an ally. It locks it away inside the bones. And there, inside, it burns. Without ever stopping. They still believed it was bad luck. It was not bad luck. Because there was one thing the girls didn't know. In the very same building, the chemists, the men of science, the ones who handled pure radium, they were protected. Lead screens, metal tongs, masks, aprons. They wore lead aprons. The girls put the brush in their mouths. In 1924, the company commissions its own study from a Harvard physiologist, Cecil Drinker. The report is clear: the women are being poisoned. But to the authorities of New Jersey, the company sends an edited version, one that says the women are in perfect health. And that word, syphilis? A shameful disease, whispered later about the victims, to stain their memory before anyone could even ask a question. They weren't treating the girls. They were preparing their defense. And the founder? Dr. von Sochocky, the man who invented this very paint. He too will die, in 1928, of an anemia that eats the marrow, killed by his own invention. One question remained. These women, devoured from the inside, could they even fight back? Grace Fryer spent 2 years just finding a lawyer willing to help her. 2 years. His name was Raymond Berry. By the time the case reaches court, in 1928, Grace can no longer sit up straight without a steel brace. On the day of the hearing, she and the others are too weak to raise an arm and take the oath. And in Illinois, at the Radium Dial Company, another woman rises. Catherine Wolfe Donohue. In 1938, she testifies while dying, carried into the room, her voice barely audible. Grace could no longer raise her arm to swear. Catherine testified as she was dying. They won anyway. Catherine passed away on the 27th of July, 1938, the day after the company filed a fresh appeal. What they tore from the world wasn't money. Their trials changed the law, helping establish that an employer could be held responsible for the disease he inflicted on his workers. And here is the detail that haunts. The measurements taken from their skeletons were used to set the very first limits on radiation exposure, the ones that still protect nuclear workers today. The rules that keep you safe today were written in their bones. In 1927, Mollie Maggia's body was exhumed. 5 years underground. Every fragment they tested was still radioactive. Radium has a half-life of about 1600 years. They were told it was safe. Today, in the dark, beneath the earth, their bones are still radioactive, and they will keep glowing on a photographic plate for centuries, long after no one remembers why. Their names were Mollie, Grace, and Catherine. Say them out loud. Subscribe so we don't forget a single one.